Inclusiveness to order for February 18th. Thank you so much to our committee members who have joined us online and in person today, and to staff who are here. I'll start with the introduction of late items, but we have no late items. So if I could have a motion for the adoption of today's agenda, moved by Richard, seconded by Tammy. Thank you so much. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Under council communications, I'd just like to share that council reviewed and accepted our 2025 annual report. So good job, everyone, on that. And under presentations, our main and only item of business today is looking at the Maffeo Sutton Park amenity building. And we have a presentation to kick off today, and then we'll be able to give some feedback. Thank you, Peyton Carter, our Parks and Open Spaces Planner, for being here today.
Thank you, Councillor Eastmuir. And so just to, you'll notice first off before we begin that we're sitting a little differently today. And staff are sitting at the table because we're hoping that we will make this feel a little bit more like a workshop. And so we're really inviting feedback. The flow of information this way is mostly today from you to us. And so we're sitting today differently to facilitate that. Because this is a formal meeting still and there are people at home, questions will flow as normal though through the chair. So I'm Charlotte, as you know, I'm the Deputy Director of Parks, and I'm here to provide some background and context on what we're here to do, which is around the Maffeo Sutton Park amenity building project. After I've given this background and context, Peyton is going to take us through our presentation, through the workshop with some technical input from James, our project manager, as well. So we do plan to stop talking fairly early. This is a present and switch quickly to soliciting information and feedback from the committee. This is where we'll be spending most of our time today. So thank you very much for being here, because your continued leadership in advancing accessibility across the NIMO is very, very important, and we look forward to showcasing that with the completion of this project. So today's session focuses on the emerging design for the Maffeo Sutton amenity building. Nothing you see today is set in stone. We have the ability to take on feedback on the elements of the building. It will replace the existing building, which is aging and undersized, and will provide a more modern and inclusive and flexible public amenity that meets the needs of accessibility in Nanaimo's busiest park. Accessibility is one of three core bones of this project, alongside function and safety. There was a needs assessment created using feedback from this committee, and several key points came from that, which we have used to create the concepts that you'll be seeing today. Three of those main items that came forward from this committee were the need to have 2 fully accessible universal washrooms in the amenity building. Also, the desire to have 10 universal year-round washrooms that are available and accessible from the outside of the facility, and then also for event days to have surge capacity within the amenity building. So that would be the ability to take the washroom capacity from 10 up to 25. Further feedback that we received from the Accessibility Committee and staff were that the building needs to feature crime prevention through environmental design features, that is including clear sight lines, open entrances and good lighting, a quiet low stimulus retreat area within the building, and integrated with the trail nearby, and a green room as well. So you'll be seeing this. This has all been thought into our concepts here today. What we need from you, so this is a workshop and it is an opportunity to refine the design. Nothing you see is set in stone, as I've said. I really want to be clear with how early on in the concept, in the stages we are. Peyton is going to walk you through our concept, with James providing some technical context, and then we'll turn to you for guidance on some of the key elements and also general comments as well. So without further ado, I'll turn you over to Peyton. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlotte. Hi, everyone. I'm Peyton. Nice to be with you all again today. I'm going to talk a little bit about Maffeo Sutton Park. There we go. As you all know, Maffeo Sutton Park is one of our signature parks in Nanaimo, overlooking the harbor. It's a central point along the very popular Harborfront Walkway and hosts many special events, which are only increasing. Obviously, it's a great year-round destination that's activated with events and amenities and is very rich in history here in Nanaimo. The original Maffeo Sutton Park Improvement Plan was developed in 2008, and followed by the opening of Spirit Square in 2009, and most recently, the Accessible Playground Edition in 2022. The park has grown significantly, and we do have a draft updated plan that calls for improved washroom facilities and amenities, including wayfinding, public art, and other improvements to support our special events and everyday park use. I did bring along with me today a copy of the slides and as well as a larger copy of the site plan that I can bring over to the table if anyone would like to see that in person and not just on the slides. A new amenity building obviously has been considered in this park for quite a while, dating back to 2008 when we had our original Maffeo Park Improvement Plan. Additional washrooms were further identified through public engagement in 2017, and as Charlotte mentioned, our needs assessment also spoke to that. The existing facilities are not sufficient for accommodating the large number of events we're seeing at this park now, so it's time for us to grow. This project seeks to construct a new amenity building that is going to be universally accessible, gender neutral, and have accessible washroom facilities to provide that high-quality amenity that prioritizes accessibility, inclusivity, public wayfinding, and durability. This building is also going to create a central wayfinding location within the park and introduce new opportunities for public art connections with the existing Lions Pavilion and support further park programming efforts. I'm going to pass it off to James, our project manager, to continue.
Thank you, Peyton. I'm just going to go through some of the site context and some of the elements that we have with servicing this site. So the proposed site here shown as the orange blob is near the Lions Pavilion. And the reason this location was chosen is, first of all, it's very close to the waterfront walkway, which sees approximately 24,000 users a month during the summer. So it's a great location for people using the walkway. It's close to the Lions Pavilion. As Charlotte mentioned, there's a green room included, so it can support events that are happening at the Lions Pavilion. And as well as that, it's the proximity to the parking area, which makes it an excellent wayfinding opportunity, as well as meeting some SEPTED requirements, which are that it's highly visible from the parking area. Now here we have some of the site constraints, and in fact, some of the reasons we're putting the amenity building in this location they also represent some constraints. For instance, the waterfront walkway is a limiting factor for going to the north, and as well as the Lions Pavilion being there. There's also a property line which separates the park area from an area that is owned by the Nanaimo Port Authority. So the proposed building is actually going on lands that are currently leased by the city from the Nanaimo Port Authority. And during the 2008, Peyton was mentioning the 2008 Spirit Square project, some of the pre-servicing happened here. So there was a water line that was installed to support the building, as well as a sanitary sewer line. There's also a storm sewer line that runs adjacent to this site, which sort of limits us from encroaching more to the west of the project area. And there's also a hydro line that's shown there in purple. So these constraints are sort of limiting our options for the size of the building as well as the location. But like I said, some of these constraints are also opportunities. And this is the conceptual layout plan that we have been provided from our design team. And like Charlotte said, this is not set in stone, but this meets a lot of the needs that we're trying to accomplish with this building. So in the middle there, in yellow, sort of through the middle of the building, marked with an S, these are the surge washrooms. So these are washrooms that are going to be used during surge events. They're not going to be open every day, just for larger events at the park where the everyday washrooms don't provide enough service. And in the surge area, we have 1 accessible washroom and 10 standard washrooms. And each of these washrooms has their own sink. There's also an area that has 4 urinals, as shown on the drawing, and also a sink bank with 2 sinks and a baby change table. Entrance and exit is from the north of the building, and on the south of the building, we're showing a doorway there, which is an optional emergency exit. We're still trying to decide whether or not that is the best use of space. It's not required under the building code, but it's shown as an optional. On the west side of the building, which is shown in blue with the W on this building, on this drawing, there are 7 daily gender-neutral washrooms, each with a sink and a toilet. There's also shown in orange, marked with an A at the south end of the building, a fully accessible washroom that has 1 sink, a toilet, as well as an adjustable adult change table. We have marked in orange AF at the top right-hand side of the building, another daily accessible washroom that has a sink and 2 toilets. So this is going to sort of double as a family washroom. It has a second toilet, which is a smaller child-sized toilet. And then beside the everyday washrooms...
Through the chair, James, might
Yes.
I pause through the chair? I notice Mr. Harlow might have a question.
Is that just a letter?
It's short for accessible and family
Oh, thank
washroom.
you,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
it's going to serve a dual purpose. And then in the gray with the U is the utility room. That's where our electrical and mechanical area is going to be, as well as some storage for washroom supplies. And then the green triangular room is the green room. And it is close to the Lions Pavilion. It's close to the ramp. It's the only door that's facing that sort of corner cut. So that area will be used for performers that are going to be using the Lions Pavilion. We're kind of envisioning a couple of couches, a sink, and some storage area for their personal belongings. And then the last thing I want to point out is on the west side of the building, the left side on this drawing or this diagram, the last washroom on the bottom, we've shown a couple of options in purple. One is that we could potentially remove that washroom and put in a baby nursing room. And the other option is perhaps a park ambassador room. There's also an opportunity to have it as a flexible space where it could be used as both. But that's a decision that hasn't been made, but that is an option that's been put forward by the design team. And I'm going to pass it back to Peyton.
Thank you, James. So at this point in our meeting, we'd like to transition to getting committee feedback. I've broken down our slides into the different areas of the building that we'd like to gather your feedback on and field your questions. But I'm happy to take any questions at this point as well, if anyone has any.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We do have a committee member who needs to leave at 5 o'clock, so I just wanted to make sure, Linda, if you did have any comments, if you wanted to share them now or questions?
I could also write them and send them to you. It's recommended that you have transfer space on an accessible toilet on both sides, so that people in manual wheelchairs, for some of them, it really matters what side they're transferring from. If you can't do that, then have it on one side in one bathroom and on the other side in the other bathroom. But on the slide up there, I would swap the child's toilet and the accessible toilet, and then you use the fold-down grab bars on both sides of the accessible toilet and have grab bars across the back. Yeah, I'm just sort of tossing it all out here. You'd also want a lift and a track to the toilet on the adult change table. And you should have water near the adult change table because a lot of people need to be cleaned, right? So some people are wiped and changed and then they're back into their chair, or they're lifted. So you'd want that change table to have a track over to the toilet, which would be easier if it's where the child toilet was. So.
Is a lift being considered at all as part of this project?
It's in one of them.
Yeah, on these conceptual plans, the lift was planned for the other accessible washroom.
Okay. Tammy?
Is there going to be, thank you, is there going to be heat or air conditioning in this building? Is there HVAC?
Through the chair, yes, the building's going to be fully conditioned.
And how much space is that area, like how many people would be able to utilize like a nursing station at a time?
Through the chair again, the nursing station is fairly small, so it's just the size of a single washroom, so it wouldn't be large enough for more than one person at a time.
Okay. And then, what other questions do I have? Oh, okay, so if people are lining up for any of the outside, like along where the the washrooms are, is there shade? A consideration for,
Yes.
or cover or something, like standing outside waiting for the bathroom? Sometimes you're waiting a long time.
Thank you for your question, Tammy. Through the chair, if you are able to look at the slide here, there's a very, and I apologize for not making it more clear, a dashed line, and that would be covered area, so weather protection.
And then from the green room to the Lions Pavilion, will there be a covered walkway there? Like if you're taking instruments to the stage or whatever kind of thing?
Through the chair to Tammy's question, at this point, no, that's not being considered. Oh, and it is a fire separation issue. There is a 3-meter distance requirement between the Lions Pavilion and the new building.
Okay. So you can't build a roof connecting them, but you might be able to plant a tree or something. Is that what I'm hearing?
That would be a good way of putting, through the chair, yeah, that would be a good way of putting it. We wouldn't be able to construct any kind of building or roof between the two buildings.
So it would go, if you were in the green room, you would go out that door, and then there's like a, kind of like a zigzag ramp that goes up to the Lions Pavilion stage. Is that correct? On that side? Is that where it's going to go?
That is correct. And we may be able to bring up PubMap, I'm not sure, just to give you an overview of the site, if that would be helpful. But it's very close to the ramp, and that is the idea of the flow of traffic. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much, Peyton. You can
The
see
door
ramp here.
is like where the green and the sidewalk kind of, is there going to be changes to the sidewalk, or is that like where the grass is currently?
So I can, I don't know how to best describe this. I can get up and point at the slide, or?
Yeah.
Through the chair to Tammy, the green room door is visible on this slide. On the green section, about 1/3 down the side of the wall there, and it connects closely to that ramp. It is not on an area that's presently paved.
Okay, I see it.
That would need to be, that landscaping would be beared in mind, because we wouldn't want people to be walking over grass.
Okay, I see questions from Richard and Jocelyn, but I'm just going to go to Linda because she has one more. Oh, you're good? Okay. All right. I'm going to go to Richard.
Sorry, I heard
Can you
give
turn,
that.
if you don't mind, just turning your mic on quickly there.
Thanks.
Thank you. There you go.
All right. Maybe? Oh, so I already gave that email of the list of like ideas that I had. Everyone has that? All right. I also had come up with some other ideas. There's that giant totem pole that's right there. And one thing that I can remember seeing at the Dinosaur Museum in Drumheller was like small scale versions of some of the installations. So if we had like a small scale version of that, that would allow like people to actually touch what that thing is. And then also it allows people to know what that story of the totem pole is. So there would be additional cultural knowledge being shared. I loved when the carvers up at VIU were being able to carve and I could see it on the ground and feel it all, but then that would allow someone to fully understand. Second, I was thinking of either a kind of like loop system for hearing aids near this area, since we have power, to allow, like, say, if a presentation is in the one area of the park, being able to connect your hearing aid to that, so then you could be away from all the overwhelming noise, but still be a part of the event. Maybe if there's like overwhelming crowds or anything like that too. Or having like an amplifier at the actual area there. So say if you need to go to the washroom, you're not missing out on any of the event festivities. Third, I was thinking that the...
Okay, and I just want to make sure we're staying focused on the washroom design.
Yes.
Okay.
But that would be like...
Yep.
At that washroom.
Cool.
So also having like maybe even more higher contrast identifiers or something to be able to know if the washroom is actively being used, is free, or if it's locked because it's out of use. Because like if I'm waiting outside of it, I don't know necessarily if it's out of use, right? I could just be waiting there forever. So.
Until I come along and say, move on, boy.
Yeah. And then, sorry.
I want to ask a follow-up to that.
And then something that emits sound at it to be like an auditory beacon to allow people to kind of know where the washrooms are, because maybe like a fountain or some sort of like something that would make noise, but not overwhelm. So you could hear it when there is an event happening there, to kind of like use that as an anchor point in this large plaza space. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard, for those suggestions. If I may just ask you a further follow-up question to that advice. Around letting people understand when the washrooms are engaged.
Yeah.
How we can best do that is something we've been workshopping with the designers as well. And it's hard because we don't have an elevation for you to look at today. But one of the things that we've been thinking about was the potential to have a window above every one of the everyday use stalls.
Yeah.
That when someone was in there, you would be able to see that there was a light on and it was lit. We could do that in colours. But I'm wondering if that would meet your needs or everyone's needs, and if there's other ways we could do a better job of that, because it is important. In an outside space, we have to have the door come complete top to bottom, obviously for privacy needs. So we've been thinking about this, and maybe it's through the use of a light that's somewhere else, or maybe it's both.
I'm thinking, so the problem when you have lights up above, some people can't see very far away, like myself. And so that might be out of range, and especially in the daytime where that light might be like drowned out, and you might actually see the light of outside versus the light inside. So maybe having a small light that's like shooting down outside the stall, or like near kind of below headlights, so then like someone with low vision who's shorter or utilizing mobility aids might be able to see it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's great.
Jocelyn.
There, sorry. This is so interesting. And to that point about the indicator light, I wonder, like, as a wheelchair user, I like the idea of having a light that is on the ground. Like, as long as it can be like bright enough, I guess, or high enough contrast. But all of this, I just come back to, how do you make sure it continues to work a month after it's finished, right? Like, I think that's any public building. There's that fear especially bathrooms, about like turn taking and like the doors getting locked with someone in it on purpose and stuff like that. So there's that as well, but the doors also need to swing like slow enough but heavy enough so that they fully close after a wheelchair user. Like just so many factors to consider. So like a lot of my compliments for getting this far. I was confused about this particular family washroom, or accessible and family. It has a height adjustable change table, and I remember when we first started talking about this at this committee, we talked about having a changing places compliant washroom, and I'm just wondering, I think I heard someone earlier say that the hoist would be in the other accessible washroom. And I'm wondering if that washroom also has an adult change table, because really, I think the hoist would need to be wherever that adult change table is.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. Do staff want to comment on that?
Yeah, I would be happy to comment. Thank you, Jocelyn. Just to your comments, there's planned to be an adult change table in both accessible washrooms at this time. And then the lift would be in the southern facing accessible washroom.
Okay, wow, that's really great. Like, I don't know a lot of places that have even one, so that would be fantastic to have. My other comment, because these are beds, really, and we have a lot of folks who don't have a bed and should have a bed. So, like, to me, the biggest facet of something remaining accessible is, can it be protected in its use? Is it going to be available for me to go to the bathroom during like Canada Day? Is it going to be available for a parent with a child with multiple needs who has to be changed, like on a larger change table? And I'm just curious if this is not the time in the process or in your presentation, that's totally fine. But I'm just curious if you've given any thought to how how these resources will be, protected to be available for events in the park.
Thank you again, Jocelyn. Just to respond to your question through the chair, it has been a topic of discussion, but we are very open to hearing the committee's feedback on how we can best protect these spaces for your use. We have discussed the idea of a park ambassador helping us with this, so that is a potential option on the table, but I'm very open to hearing the committee's feedback on what they would envision, or if you've had excellent experiences in other municipalities that we could lean on.
And just to add to that as well, some of those ideas that we've been working through using were technology to allow us to control access remotely through a buzzer, through a doorbell, something like with a camera where you can buzz to be let in. And then if there's an issue, park ambassador or park staff are made aware and we're able to attend in a timely fashion. So I think it's about controlled access remotely. But yes, like Peyton said, we're really open to feedback on where you've seen that work well.
I wish I had a good answer, but I'm glad to hear your thoughts about it and what everyone else thinks too. Thanks.
Are you thinking of CCTV?
Through the chair, Richard just asked if we were thinking about CCTV. We have asked for these washrooms to be wired for cameras in the appropriate spaces, and we'll have to have a privacy impact assessment completed. But in terms of locking down and making these spaces accessible when needed, we could use a camera solution or some kind of technology whereby you could buzz and request to be let in. And so the person, therefore verifying the individual, would be able to see who was being asked to be let in and allow that building to be unlocked remotely. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I have speakers list, Councillor Armstrong, and then Bay, And then back to Richard, unless anyone else has questions. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. I was just doing some research and was looking at the American standards. And one thing that they say is that you need a small relief map so they know exactly where the bathrooms are located in each thing so they can touch it all and they'll know where to go. Is that being looked at?
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Through the chair, yes, accessible wayfinding is absolutely on our radar for this, and we plan to use and build on some of the success we've had at Westwood Lake with some of our tactile mapping. And that's really interesting to think about a tactile map of a washroom.
Yeah, and they say it needs to be at 60 inches because that's the standard across the world, apparently, for all that. And then the other thing that came up was there's that app that's called Be My Eyes. And there's a way now that they can use that it sends a ping to their phone that they're within a washroom that's available or something. So it might be something to look at, so, yeah. And they said Braille's not the best, it's one of the things, they prefer the raised tactile stuff because not everybody's, they said only about 10% of people understand Braille. Yeah, it was really good, I was following it up, and there's a really good video on it, and it shows how they've done them in the States. I'll send you the video if you want to see it. It's quite interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Bay?
Hi, yeah. When we were talking about controlled access to the washroom, it reminds me that this is one of the few places in Nanaimo that is lit up and accessible for walking at night. So I do wonder what the hours of the washroom are going to be when they would be no longer available, or if the accessible washrooms could remain available with that remote access feature you mentioned. I did think back to original discussions. A lot of people go swimming in the lagoon there, and they'll go into the washrooms and change, and often they take the accessible washrooms because there's space. And I just noticed that there aren't any change rooms other than for children and accessibility needs. So I was wondering if you had thought about that or considered a different placement for that building.
Through the chair, thank you, Bay, for those questions and advice. So to answer the first one about parks hours, presently the park closes at 9 p.m. in winter and 10 p.m. in the summer. The washrooms close at those times. What I would say is that through well-controlled access, we could potentially look to extend those hours, and that is quite exciting. However, with doing things like that, there are operational impacts and cost increases. So as part of this, we do intend to report back to council in the future around what it will take to run this building with the highest standard that we're getting here. And those increased hours would be part of that. If we wanted to go that way, we would need to be able to be sure that we could have someone in place monitoring it, and also somebody able to attend if there were an issue at that time. There is actually currently a service in Nanaimo through our commissioner where we do have 24-hour security services run through our public works and parks system. However, I think those would need to be extended if we were able to truly be able to have a good standard here in terms of being able to provide access and security at night. And then the second question about change rooms, that was considered and it has not been incorporated. The washrooms that are accessible from the exterior of the building are larger than a standard washroom stall, which would permit most people to change. And then the additional reason why that wasn't built into this building is several. The main one being that this location is relatively removed from the lagoon. And in future, we may wish to, if swimming becomes more popular in this location, we may actually wish to incorporate more amenities closer to the lagoon to serve those users, including showers and potential a change room. And it just hasn't worked into this design in an express sense. But we do recognise that that was one of the earlier recommendations of this committee, and that has just been baked into the larger size of the existing of those washrooms that are planned for the exterior. Thank you.
would like to ask a question about the number of washroom stalls that are currently in the park versus this plan. Is there the same number of washroom stalls in this plan as currently exist there without the inclusion of the surge washrooms?
Oh, without the inclusion of the surge washrooms, we're about 2 more if you're not including the urinals.
Not including the urinals.
So we have 8. There are 8 externally accessible washrooms
Okay.
in this design here.
And I did have a question about the surge gender neutral section. With the location of the urinals there, it seemed a bit strange to me to not have like a door or something. It's like right by the main entrance, so that makes me feel uncomfortable from like a gender neutral perspective and like just a privacy perspective. It just feels off to me. So yeah, if it like is a door or a partition like an option in that spot?
Yes, that would be, and thank you for that comment. I would say that at this stage in the workshop, what we had planned was really to walk everybody through the step-by-step through the design. If anybody has any general comments, perhaps we could take those now, but if we wanted to go through the individual pieces one by one, that might facilitate conversation.
Okay, pardon me, I missed that we were going to do that, so yeah.
Thank you.
I know that Richard had his hand up with additional questions. Richard, did you want to ask those now, or did you want to hold until the step-by-step?
Thanks. It might be a good addition.
Sure.
So for blind people, and especially if you like set something on the counter of the sink or something, and it like falls off, it's the most gross thing in the world to have to feel around with your hands in the washroom. So like that lip thing, important, but also having like hooks maybe in there. So you could put your backpack on the hook. So it can be like a pseudo change room at least. So you can kind of use those washrooms for additional things. And that pathfinding thing makes less touching of things even nicer. And then in my thing, I have like a culturally inclusive thing with the Pachina Bay thing. If electricity is an issue, we could have, similar to the Pachina Bay installation, have this like hand crank that has different options for Hokamimum stories with the translation or words or like whale sounds or anything like that. We could choose whatever that is, and then it makes it even more interactive for children than just like a QR code. So there's more engagement, and also it doesn't require the power. So we could have that nearby and not have it draw any power either.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll do the detailed walkthrough of the design then. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Eastmere, and thank you everyone for your comments this far. It has been very helpful. Up on the slide here, and I do have copies in front of us if we need, we have the accessible family washroom. Linda already provided some really great comments, but I would be happy to take any questions, comments, feedback on the design in front of you. As Charlotte mentioned, nothing is set in stone, so really things can be moved around. Linda mentioned potentially swapping the location of the adults' toilet and the children's toilet, making sure we have room for transfer on both sides. Also maybe considering the incorporation of a lift, and then folding down grab bars as well. But if anyone else has any other comments or questions, that would be great.
Nicole?
So one is a point of, I guess, a clarification. What is the vertical line right beside the child's toilet right now? Is that a grab bar?
Through the chair to Nicole, yes.
Okay, so if we move the adult toilet to the center and have the swing down grab bars that Linda spoke of, I think that makes more sense than having it on one side or the other. And then up at, I think the only place I've seen them is up at Bevan. There is like a slow-moving step stool for children at the sink. So I think we have to decide I'm not sure how that will work with accessibility for a wheelchair user to access the sink. So you may actually need, if this is to be a family washroom and a accessible washroom, you may need 2 sinks. Or unless you can have that stool that sort of flips away and still have enough room for a wheelchair. I'm not convinced you can have the same at 1 sink.
Yeah, I think I identified that too.
Tammy?
This does not have a lift, right? No.
Okay, Councillor Armstrong?
I have a question on the flooring. Is it going to be non-slip flooring?
Through the chair to Councillor Armstrong, we have not gotten to that level of detail yet, but we can absolutely make sure that that's considered in the final design.
Yeah, everything I've looked at has said that, especially when you come in with wet feet, which can sometimes happen and don't. Another thing, will we look at having an emergency call button there in the event somebody's comes into trouble?
Through the chair to Councillor Armstrong, absolutely.
Thank you. And I think that's good. My other thing was knee space under the sink, but I think that's been addressed, right? Thank you.
This is kind of minor, but just the placement of the soap and the, what do you call it? Towels, yeah. If it's on the wall, then nobody can reach it. If you like, lots of people can't reach it if it's attached to the wall. So you'd have to have make sure you'd have access to that.
Perfect. Thank you, Tammy. Through the chair, we are working with 2 Rick Hansen certified designers. So all of those elements will absolutely be incorporated and considered, and on top of all of your feedback as well.
And Jocelyn?
Hi, I just wanted to concur with, I've forgotten who said it, but it's funny, I thought of this like a couple of minutes right before you said it. The built-in kid stools for the sinks are often in the only knee space that makes any sense. And so if there's another build for that, something that does properly swing away rather than just the step surface, because the ones that are like swing away that I've seen in the airport are, they remain in the way. The step part disappears. So I concur that I think 2 sinks or a sink and a space might be needed. Although if you have, I think 2 sinks either way. And I absolutely have so much trouble reaching the paper towels or blower or whatever. And so I'm sure your designers, given their training, will know all this, but you'd be so surprised to see how often this goes wrong. But to have the towels or the hand dryer be at the end of the counter. And that often is the place where they put the garbage. And although it's very convenient to have it at the end of the counter right under the towels, it plays the same role as the sink in interfering with, like the counter interfering with reach to the towels. So, I mean, it's a pretty big washroom, so hopefully there's enough wall space for all that, but that is a sort of a constant problem in public washrooms I see. So, yeah, just concurring with all those comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Jocelyn. All right, we're going to transition now to the other accessible washroom. So just to highlight, this one envisions 1 sink, 1 adult toilet, and 1 adult change table with a lift. This space is 10.5 square meters, so it's actually bigger than the other space, the accessible family space, and that is to accommodate the lift. I'm happy to take any questions or comments on this one.
So just for clarity, like the black line on the photo that we're looking at on the screen, on the lower side of the toilet, that's a grab bar as well as the one on the wall behind it? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Does it swing away, or like it? I'm not a wheelchair user, but I feel like that looks like it's in the way. for transferring to the toilet? I don't understand how that works.
In my experience, they fold up usually.
Fold up. Okay,
Yeah.
like into the wall and then down? Okay,
Yeah.
is that what's being considered in this?
We can absolutely consider folding grab bars.
Okay,
Because the lateral transfer is much preferred, or at least I wouldn't say preferred, but doing the 180 transfer facing the end of the toilet is not something everybody can do. And so the lateral, if you only have access to one side of the toilet, I would, I think that you'd want to swing up railing so that you have one on each side and one in behind. One of the things that makes standard accessible or standard toilet stalls inaccessible is that the person in a wheelchair would have to do a 180-degree transfer. So you always want to offer another side of the toilet just in case.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Can I just ask a question back to you? Are you just suggesting that we relocate the toilet to accommodate transfer space on both sides as well as the grab bars on both sides? I just want to make sure I'm getting everything you said.
I sort of jumped in and was commenting on the previous comment about what that railing was about, but I take the earlier feedback about I think it was Linda who said having access on both left and right of the toilet is the preference. If that's possible, I would agree. I think that is the ideal situation for a wheelchair user who can transfer, because not everyone can do it both ways. But what I had been saying was just like, you really don't want to have an accessible washroom with a toilet that the only way onto it is like face on. So, and if you're going to put railings on both sides that close, you'd want them to be able to swing up unless it's on the wall.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying.
Tammy?
So I'm just looking at both of these accessible layouts, and the way you've got it here, if you used a lift, like the wheelchair would have to be positioned right about where the number 10 is on the 10.5 meters. And then you'd have to transfer sideways to get a person onto that. And then if another person needed to get from a wheelchair to the toilet, you're gonna need what's called an XY lift where it goes this way and laterally. Whereas if you went back to the other side, if you went back to the AF bathroom, I think if you put the toilet right across from the change table and a wheelchair was right in between them, you'd only need to have a single track.
Thank you, Tammy. That's great advice.
I like XY, but it's not like, you don't need it in every single situation.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. We are going to now talk about the surge washrooms. So as James mentioned, these surge washrooms are envisioned to be open during some of our larger events in the park. They are envisioned as gender-neutral spaces with 1 accessible stall, 10 standard stalls, 4 urinals, 2 exterior sinks, baby change table, and then some additional storage. Happy to take any comments or questions on the surge washrooms.
Richard?
I apologize if it's not directly for this washroom. Can I still say it? Or should I wait?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I had mentioned that having like maybe channels for cables when there's like an event nearby where they need to put down cables, having those little bump things can be huge tripping hazards. But what I thought additionally is that if we have like food trucks nearby, that's also a problem. Because the food trucks always have power cords that are going to those food trucks as well. And I have tripped over them. I will admit it, it happens, right?
I've tripped over them, so.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So if we could address that around the washroom, because of course the food trucks are going to be nearby for washing your hands and afterwards. So,
And I think like we do have Maffeo Sutton Park on the list for an accessibility audit
Yes.
by our Rick Hansen certified staff. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I think we're going to have a chance to address like broader accessibility concerns in the park for sure. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
I thought that was like surrounding area around the washroom that might be considered, especially when they're ripping up things.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's good feedback to incorporate and to think about like the broader scope for sure. So just on the surge washrooms themselves, which are only open during special events or when the park is particularly busy, like we're talking like surge periods, like would we be able to open on a particularly sunny day when we see like greater use in the park, or would it only be for like scheduled events?
Through the chair to your question, Councillor Eastmere, we could absolutely open it like during the summer when we see more visitors, absolutely.
Thank you.
Not just for events.
Nicole?
I don't know what shape that is. Cut off triangle on the bottom right. Is that a change area? Is that a storage area?
Through the chair to Nicole, it is envisioned currently as a storage area, but the layout is flexible, so.
Tammy?
So they've got the one larger washroom at the top, and are you going to have bars around that one? Is that, and then are there any grab bars in any of the other bathrooms?
Thank you, Tammy, for your question. I apologize if the floor plans are not the most clear. The floor layouts for all the accessible washrooms we can accommodate the comments we've heard thus far about ensuring the flexible grab bars as well as the transfer space on both sides. Though the accessible washrooms the space dedicated to them is large enough to accommodate those items. For the standard stalls, there is no grab bars shown, but we could absolutely accommodate them along the wall.
Okay, I see hands from Jocelyn and Bay. I did want to ask a question about the door style on these stalls. I have heard feedback that like it would need to be like a proper door that goes all the way to the ground and like closes without a gap that you see in often like in public washroom stalls. And so I'm just asking if that would be incorporated for this space.
Yes, absolutely. Because the space is gender neutral, the doors will be floor to ceiling doors with no gaps.
Thank you. So Jocelyn and then Bay.
I just have this feeling that there's not enough sinks. When it gets really busy, people use the mirror area and the sinks for all kinds of things. They wash their feet, they put makeup on. And so I think it was Canada Day last year when they had open, or maybe it was Pride, where they had genderless washroom use of the current building. And the sinks were a big problem in folks using what was called the men's washroom side, but anyone could use it. Just not enough sink space. And I would, if this is sort of the general reflection of the number of sinks, I feel like that's probably not enough. And I wonder whether, like public health wise, it's not a great idea, but if you put sinks on the outside of the building by the door, then people can leave and use the sinks as they see fit. Like maybe they got ketchup all over their hands and wanted to wash, but didn't need to use the washroom. Or maybe an L shape there could be done so that the baby change station is like along the edge of the stall next to it. I'm just really glad to see that the baby change station isn't in like put in one of the accessible stalls, although it is like one of the daily use ones, but that's a real common bottleneck for accessible stalls in bathrooms like this. So I think it's great that it's not in that stall. And it's a little concerning to think about the wheelchair accessible washrooms being that kind of heavy metal door that you would see in a park, like an exterior building like this. And I don't know exactly how it would be made to be like, it's either you have a button operated door, or which can be very fragile at times, especially for this type of facility, or you somehow offload the weight of the door so the person can push it and it opens. Because that gets really hard to open. Any of the accessible washrooms would need a door that could be independently opened, and I would suggest that the A and the AF washroom have button operated doors. Or like if you use a buzzer, then you hit the buzzer and someone enables you to enter it, so it buzzes open automatically, for example. Sorry, that's a bunch of different topics at once, but yeah, that's all.
Jocelyn, just to ask you, thank you so much for that feedback. Just a couple more questions back to you. In relation to the need to have more sinks, is that even in recognising that every individual stall in the surge washroom itself has an own sink? You still
Oh,
feel
I didn't realize that. So
okay.
Ignore me.
No, I don't. I think it's still a very good point to consider. Yeah. Okay.
I just missed I'm like staring at the same slide everyone else is, and I missed the whole with sinks. So I think that's great, and that will help for sure. It means that it's a little bit less time, like just guessing that it means getting in and out of the individual stalls. It takes a little tiny bit longer, but I feel like is cleaner. And so, just 2 stalls in this surge washroom area is probably fine then. Cannot imagine that many people if they each have their own. But yeah.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Yeah, I still think it is something worth considering. And we did think about sinks on the exterior of the building. We are concerned about that from a security perspective, because we would probably need to lock that off at night. And we were also concerned about it from a winter perspective and how hard it may be to be able to keep those usable all season round. There are many reasons why people may need to use a sink, and so that is why we opted to put them inside the individual stalls in the surge washrooms, and also for sanitary reasons as well. So you've washed your hands before you're using the door. So that we thought that through. Thank you very much. Cool. That's great.
Great feedback. Thank you. Bae.
Hi. I had some questions. It's hard for me to imagine the dimensions of the stalls. How big are they? For one of my questions. And I also wanted to talk about the baby change table being at the sink area. As a parent, it had been an issue on occasion, a male partner taking the baby to the washroom for a change. Even if there was a change table, there were some interactions that were creepy and sometimes quite rude. Sometimes people were quite offended that someone was changing a baby right there. And so I wonder if also having it right next to the sink is necessarily hygienic. Some diapers can get real wild. The stall size and the baby change table, I guess.
Thank you, Bae. And through the chair, to your question about the dimensions, I do have them here. The typical stalls the standard stalls with the sinks, are 1.3 meters wide and 2 meters long. And the typical accessible washrooms were 2 meters long by 1.5 meters wide.
Okay, because I'm just trying to imagine one issue with a lot of commercial washroom stalls is that they're usually quite small, and the inward swinging doors, well, I understand, are a safety feature, so you can't get blocked in there. They tend to create an obstacle to climb around to get in or out of the stalls, unless you're child size.
Weird.
Through the chair, if I might ask staff, because some of us don't always think in inches and meters, is there an example of something around those dimensions that you can, or a room that our committee members might know that they could compare the size to? Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. The washrooms would be similar to the size of the washrooms installed at Westwood Lake.
Oh, the rooms?
Those are pretty decent.
Jocelyn, I see your hand.
Is there, I take Bay's point about the baby change station there, and I was just at a kind of a suggestion. Is it possible that storage space could be like a nook for that with a sink or something? So it would just be separated a bit more. It'd be more private.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Through the chair, to your question, absolutely. We can adjust the floor plan to look at relocating that baby change table.
And just to add on to that, I would be really interested to know the thoughts of the entire committee about the best use of that space there. Would it be preferred that that space that we had initially anticipated as used for storage, maybe an additional washroom, or would it be preferred that it would be for a baby change table? And if it was a baby change table, does that need to be separated in its own space, i.e. with a wall, or is that best in an open space? And how do we feel about that being near the door? Sorry to ask so many questions.
Oh, there's another door.
There's another door? Question mark, question mark? That's an emergency exit.
Oh, okay.
That's a question. That's an emergency exit?
Potentially.
Okay.
The door is not required under the building code, but there's a potential to put an emergency exit there if we wish.
Okay. Richard?
I have a kind of a question suggestion for accessibility. Having like a push button near the actual toilet area in the accessible washroom, would that be something that would be beneficial for in case of emerge, like to unlock the door?
Oh.
I don't know.
Through the chair, so at Westwood Lake, when you pull the call button, the door is immediately opened. Does that answer that question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so to Charlotte's question about where should the baby change table be if one is to exist in this surge space, are there concerns about it being near the door? Any babies in the room want to weigh in on this? Are you guys okay being changed by the door? Yeah, I don't have a hot take on this at all. Nicole?
So knowing that many parents who are changing their children are often accompanied by another toddler, young preschooler, I would say whether or not they want the privacy of the door, I would leave the door in place. And then it doesn't matter that you're close to the exterior exit, but a family could choose to close the door and keep their other small person within reach while they're busy tending to their child, who hopefully they're not going to have to take their hands off their. And I would just speak to what Jocelyn said earlier. Too often we put the change table, a flip down change table, in the accessible stalls, and that it really ties them up. So when you're talking about what can you use that space for, I could see that being a very good use of space compared to other alternatives for a baby change table.
Thank you very much.
Tammy?
So I was just thinking about Nicole's comment about other children, and I know that in Japan, they have, every toilet stall that I was in had a little space to put a child, so that even the mom can use the bathroom. Like, they just sit their child in, it's got a little seat belt, it's kind of like a little high chair kind of thing, in the bathroom stalls, and you could put one in the baby change room area.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm thinking of what they have at the Nanaimo Aquatic Centre in the change room there, where you park your baby while she get changed in the family area.
Then that would be
Thank
like
you.
a multi-use change room thing again. Having a bench there.
Could be, yeah, there would be space to change in that space. Yes.
Okay, Bay?
I was also thinking small bench. Earlier you mentioned a possible area for nursing. I don't know how mothers would feel about nursing in there, but if it did have a door and ventilation, it might not. Like, I've seen mothers have to go nurse in like standard washroom stalls, and it's really awkward and a little gross. But if that room doesn't have a toilet per se, and there's a small bench, one of those, like you said, at the NAC, they have the seats with the little buckles. It might work well for that.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely that the nursing room would be included in the surge washroom, just because this isn't open consistently, but that is good feedback for the other space. I just want to acknowledge that our time, so we've got about another 20 minutes of this meeting and a few other things to get to. Richard, do you have a specific feedback on the surge washroom?
Sorry. Test. Sorry, there was something that triggered something in me thinking about the heated space part of it. What about cooling? Because in the summer months, like, it can get...
Yeah, they'll be cooled as well. I think
Okay.
that was highlighted as well.
And when we talked about the roof overhang, that was like a fire issue. But there's that giant awning that provides shade and also a little bit of rain resistance. I don't know if something higher up would bypass that fire risk type thing.
Okay. We really need to keep this focused on the washroom design, but I think that is good. That's a good question about whether that counts for fire separation between the Lions Pavilion and the washroom facility for performers moving back and forth, I think is specifically what you might be talking about. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Thank
we can
you.
look into that.
We could take that on advisement for now. We hadn't looked into that option. Thanks. But I think Peyton's going to move us on to the next slide to talk about the green room.
Yes. Up on the slide now is that triangular green room that James mentioned. Envisioned in this space is just event prep space, seating, a small kitchenette, and some storage for the performers. You'll see the floor plan is non-existent in this room, so happy to take anyone's feedback on what they'd like to see here. Thank you.
I can see this being a needed and helpful space for performers. So I'm glad to see it's included, and I think the siting makes sense with the proximity to the pavilion. Sarah?
Thanks. This is probably super basic, but I do a lot of presentations in the community, and often if I'm using my walker or my power chair, getting into the space where I'm doing a presentation is a challenge. So will it be easily accessible? Will the doorway be wide enough? Just the basics. I'm assuming yes because of the recants and audit, but I just wanted to make sure.
Through the chair to Sarah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Always good to ask those basic things because sometimes they do get missed, so thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands on this particular, well, now I do.
Sorry, there'll be power inside the room and especially this room kind of thing?
Through the chair to Tammy, yes.
What about any of the other rooms? Well, I guess there's power in where the lift is going to be, right?
Through the chair to Tammy, power where the lift is, but no sockets in any of the publicly available washrooms, just in the green room space. Generally in parks, we do not like to install any electrical outlets in any publicly available spaces that are not locked. And that will be remaining the case in this washroom. Thanks.
Bay?
Just wondering if this space would be rentable for special, like, private events in the general community, or is it going to be exclusively for large events?
Thank you, Bay. That is a really great idea. We hadn't actually thought about the use of this space for that exclusively. So you're meaning if you weren't perhaps to be performing at the Lions Pavilion, but you still had a need for this space, could you book it? I'm assuming that's what, and yeah, okay, good. I think that is something we can look into, yes. And with that, we could do that through our allocations team. I think that could be an interesting use. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, through the chair, if I might let the committee know that we'll also be engaging with our cultural stakeholders around this and how it functions, while also making sure your feedback that we're getting first doesn't cause any obstructions with some of their needs for the performance and warm-up space. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Just on to our last slide here to discuss the blue space in the southern corner of the building. That space is envisioned as either a standard washroom, a park ambassador space, or a potential nursing space. However, we recognize that the committee may have some other really great ideas for how we can make use of this space. So happy to take comments, questions on this last one as well. Thank you.
So it would just be a regular standard washroom, not fully accessible or anything like that, even though it is a larger size?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I'm going to go to Tammy and then Bay.
Can you tell me what a park ambassador is?
Good one.
Through the chair to Tammy, we have a number of park ambassadors in the city who are volunteers in our parks and help us maintain the space. We also envision the space as maybe a wayfinding location with a roll-up kiosk door that our park ambassador might be able to sit in to help people navigate the park.
Like an information booth, question mark?
Absolutely, that could be accommodated here.
Bay and then Nicole. And Richard. And then Richard.
I was wondering if you had considered making it a low sensory space where people who are getting overwhelmed in the crowds can go to calm down, because it is on the opposite side of the pavilion. So some of the event noise might be tamped down a little bit. That's my question.
Through the chair debate, that's absolutely an option for this space, and that's a great consideration. Thank you.
And just to follow up on that one, does the committee think that it would be appropriate for this space to double as nursing and a sensory space? Could those two needs be met in one space?
They might conflict.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how that works. Like, yeah, how you share the need, and like if mothers need it for, 20 minutes, and then someone with sensory needs, question mark on how long, like, it would be nice to have a flex space, but I just don't know how feasible that's going to be for management of it. I think it's going to be hard to get like committee consensus on what is the best use for this room, but like generally do people support another washroom stall in this space or have it as something other than a washroom? Can we at least narrow that down potentially? Like, is there?
Vote.
Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. I go back to the Commercial Street Market, where this committee had made the recommendations, and the committee did follow through for the downtown market to have that sensory area, which I think was really well received. So for me, I would lean towards that, because we do know that autism is on the risk. There's even, seniors that might just need to get away from it. So I think a safe spot like that, to me, would be very good, because there isn't a spot to go to there.
So
I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, so maybe we try to pilot some type of like flex space with like, this space is reserved for nursing mothers and or quiet sensory space, and like a note about being mindful of like time and like sharing the space, and kind of just try that out and see how it works. And then if we need to adapt, then see how that works. And you could even have a park ambassador using the space in between, and then, able to leave the space if someone needs to use it. I'm not sure. Nicole?
So at the Museum for Human Rights in Winnipeg, they avoid labeling any of the spaces, any of the washroom spaces as specifically anything. They just tell you what amenities are in that space. So in the AF, you say there's a small toilet and a tall toilet, and there is a height adjustable change table and 2 sinks of these 2 heights. In the surge space, there are sinks and toilets in these ones, and there are 4 urinals in this space. In this space, you would say there is a armchair and a sink. I would suggest that space is big enough to have a sink. And I don't know if there's really room to have a baby change table or not, because I noticed there's no baby change table anywhere except the surge washroom, which again pushes parents needing to change their children into the accessible washrooms again, which is maybe not where we want them to be. So I would suggest that instead of us setting up expectations, but leaving the most flexibility, that we just say what is in that space and people can use it as they need it for.
Excellent.
Good feedback. Thank you. That's really good. Is there only a baby change table in the surge space? Or?
In the accessible family washroom, we can accommodate a baby change table, as well as the adult change table. It would be a flexible table that could accommodate both.
Great. Thank you. Okay,
I
Tammy?
have a general question. Where's the nearest defibrillator closest to the Maffeo?
I mentioned that too.
Through the chair, there is not a defibrillator in Maffeo Sutton Park at present.
I knew it.
Really?
Yeah, there isn't.
Shocking.
Do you know what the nearest one is? Like, is there one?
The nearest one, I wouldn't know other than on city properties.
The
Wharf.
yeah the port. The port.
We know that there's one at the Vancouver Island Conference Centre.
There's one at the Wharfinger for sure.
Okay, one at the Port Authority office.
Okay, good note about the defib. We should probably change that as soon as possible.
That's a great idea.
Okay, saw Bay had a question as well, or comment?
Just a thought, given the playground and how busy it gets there, might want to have more than one change table available on a day-to-day basis for infants. So I don't know if you want to like if it could be included in some of the blue washrooms, because kids have a short amount of time until they need to use the washroom. So having more than one, change table would be good. I'm mixing up ages, apologies.
So I think we were just talking about if we had this flex space, it could have a sink, a change table, and an armchair in it. And that potentially makes it suitable for multiple uses. Okay, do we want to do a committee motion?
Richard had a comment.
Yeah. Yeah?
Yeah, if it's focused on this particular section, please.
Something Charlotte wanted to.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, awesome.
So I understand the city does not want to have power accessible to the public because it invites unwanted use of the power. But for a person using a power chair, that's like telling someone you can come down, but only a few hours until your battery's dead. So I want to put that in context. So having something where a power wheelchair can plug in is really important. I have a friend not able to stay for all day events down there.
That's something we can look at.
Okay, I appreciate that. I want to focus us on potentially having a recommendation for this particular space. So I think what I've heard is flex space with a change table, a sink, and an armchair, not specify exactly what it's for, and roll it out, see how it goes, and adjust as required.
Pilot project.
As a little pilot project, flex space. So,
We can talk about that after, Richard.
Sorry.
It's okay.
okay, so
That'll let the colleagues too, so.
yes, my recommendation would be that, that motion. Flex space, sink, change table, chair. So I'll make that motion, that be our recommendation on this project, seconded by Richard. Okay. Does anyone have comments? Sarah? Oh, you're seconding it? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to, call the question on that. All in favor of that recommendation from this committee? Okay, I see everyone's hands floating in the air and in real life, so thank you. We will make that recommendation. And is that our final section? Okay. So thank you for the breadth of feedback. This is a work in progress, so there's still time. I think the note about the potential power hookup in the park is a good one, so thanks for that, Richard. And I know we all look forward to the broader accessibility audit from Maffeo Sutton Park. Any final questions, Councillor Armstrong?
I just wanted to say in regards to like that power thing for the chairs, I think it should be something that we look at when we also look at charging infrastructure for electric bikes. It could probably be combined together. Thanks.
Nicole?
Just with the exterior entrances and exits that were possibly going to be remotely opened or unlocked, just making sure that there is covered, I don't even know what it's, a waiting area that they can call, that the camera is away from the swing of the door. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that it's covered so that somebody is not tempted to park because as soon as that person presses the door, they may not have time to back their chair or their walker away from the door.
Yeah, I think on the drawing where the roof covering would, the awning, I think it would be nice to extend that, maybe double what is currently shown in the drawing, just to give a little bit more space. And by the time you open the door.
And then, so you
people
could go
passing
to the
by.
side, but then some people may have difficulty turning the tight.
Yeah.
So it's really the placement of that camera, call button, whatever it is, which I'm sure your designers are better situated to make that recommendation.
Thank you so much for the feedback on just that one, but all of it this evening. It's incredibly helpful, and we are going to do our best to put it into practice. And I think we're just going to build a wonderful facility together. Also, just an update, the Maffeo Sutton Washroom Rick Hansen audit has been completed. And so we're looking forward to bringing forward the audit and the recommendations to the next committee when we can do that. Thank you very much.
What's the timeframe on this? When's it supposed to be built?
And yeah, we're asking about the timeframe on.
Great question.
build?
So this washroom is due to be complete by spring of 2028. So working back from there.
Okay, great.
Just a little bit longer.
So far from now, but that's okay. It'll be here soon. Okay, thank you so much to everyone for your feedback and to staff for your patience and support. And I just need a motion to adjourn today's meeting. Moved by Tammy, seconded by Nicole. All in favor?